when you're the reason that things get done or don't get done, then you're going to justify not picking your kid up after school or skipping the workout. And those are the things, just like having some buffer between meetings, taking time to work out, taking time to be with your family. Those are the things that fill us back up so that we can show up as our best self when we're at work. And when we skip those things, our performance starts to degrade.
Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and I'm excited for the conversation we're going to have today because we don't spend enough time talking about leadership development, and I think that's going to be the focus of our conversation. So I'm stoked because it's been coming up in some of the work that I'm doing with some of our clients. I actually have a client that's very large, and they're working on up-leveling their team, and their layers of their team are coming up from boots on the ground to becoming managers, and they're just expecting that person is just going to step into the role and know what to do and understand how to manage and lead. And the same thing for our solos and smalls, right? Like you're running your own operation, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, now I'm going to hire somebody, and I got to somehow know how to do this. Some people were gifted in that you worked in another firm before, you oversaw people there, you got to lead, but you probably had that leadership limited or provided like guidelines put on it. It's almost like you went bowling, but there were bumpers in the gutters, and you didn't actually get to experience the full breadth of it. So I'm excited to have Brad Farris on our show today. Brad is an executive coach. He's known for helping professional service firm owners whose businesses have outgrown the way that they're leading. He's discovered that being stuck in the weeds with decisions bottlenecked at your desk isn't a systems problem. It's an invitation to a leadership evolution, one that starts when they pull back from serving clients so they can become a leader in their business needs. So before I jump into this conversation with Brad, though, let's talk about the businesses who are solos who want to grow beyond themselves, because I think it's really important for you to approach 2026 with a plan, a clear action plan of how you're going to generate the results that you want. And what I found is that many of you have been struggling to do this for 5-10 years. You're just, and this is for the people who want to grow beyond themselves, right? And you're still stuck either as a solo or you've got some support staff, but you haven't figured out how to get to have an attorney on your staff, or you haven't figured out how to get to $100,000 months in revenue. And we want to solve that for you. So what we did is we took everything that we're doing with our clients in our coaching program, and we turned it into a 2-day workshop where you're going to come in, and basically we're going to create your plan for 2026, and we're going to help you to identify exactly what you need to do in order to unlock $100,000 revenue months. It might have taken you 10 years to get to where you are right now. It's going to take you 12 months to get to $100,000 a month in revenue, and with a 30 to 40% profit margin. So if that sounds like something that you want, if you want your life back, if you want to stop working 60-hour weeks, you want to be able to come in at 9 and leave at 3:30 because you want to get your kid off the bus like I do, right? Anything, whatever it is that is going to change your life, if you want that for yourself, then let us help you. And we can do that by spending 2 days together. We're keeping it to 20 seats. We're doing a number of these. So if you can't make the dates that are available when you go on, let us know. We'll let you know what the schedule is upcoming, and give you some of those options. But get your butt in the seat, because the people who are coming are leaving with the action plan of what they need to do for the next 12 months in order to execute on this and make themselves get to that next level and actually become a leader in their business, which is what we're going to talk about today. So profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026, profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026. My team has been playing around with discounting seats. Any discount they offer is expiring and won't be offered again. So they're just playing around with pricing, but they started low and they're moving their way up. So we originally priced it at $5,000, and then we discounted as low as $250. I don't know what it'll be when you get there, but you want to take action now. Don't sit on this. Don't say, "Oh, I'll get to it later." We made it really, really easy for you to attend, so that you can achieve the results that you want. We love to see you in the room. Check it out at profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So I'm excited to jump into a conversation, but the first thing that I like to do with my guests is very simply learn a little bit about you. So
Sure.
give me the backstory. How in the world did you get into executive coaching or whatever you want to call it, right? But
Yep.
basically developing leaders,
Yep.
and what makes you somebody that's able to do that, right? Like
Hmm.
who knighted you and exactly how does that work for you?
So, for the last 20, I guess almost 25 years, I've been working with owners of professional service firms to help them to grow their business. Similar to what you were talking about with your LFG, like finding the plan that helps them to unlock growth and get out of that place where they're stuck in sort of as being sort of the hub on the wheel where everybody's looking to them to get stuff done and they're working late and their team is gone, right? I saw that over and over again, and that was kind of the mission that I was trying to solve. And for the first 20 years of that, I was a management consultant. So I worked with 5 to 8 clients at a time. We'd go in and build systems and processes and help them to better understand their costs and their margins and their service offerings and really build a profitable business. And that was successful. And there were times when I realized that some of the clients that didn't follow my advice, they made a lot of money. And other clients that did follow my advice were still struggling. And so I was starting to think about what is it that beyond having the tactical stuff right was producing gains for some clients and not for others.
Mm-hmm.
And when I step back to look at it, what I saw was that some clients kind of rose up as their business grew, got themselves out of the weeds, and took on a different identity as more of the leader of the organization and less the doer in the organization. And that when they did that, it really uncapped the growth of the firm, and their firm was able to grow not just to 1 million or 2 million, but to 5 million or 10 million. And so those were the kind of things that I wanted to get on board with. And so in 2019, I switched from consulting to coaching. And so I work with more firms now, but kind of in a deeper way with the founder.
Yeah, I love it. I love the journey and interesting how you got there. What's funny is that I started with coaching and I find myself doing more management consulting, but like moving a little bit backwards because the leadership is really important, but also being able to understand and identify what the
Yeah,
numbers are telling you, what the metrics are telling you, and
yeah,
like it's a full package, and you kind of need both of those.
you do.
Um, but to the point of my intro, right? Like leadership doesn't come naturally to most. To
Yes,
some, it does. I mean, it's why some of your clients were able to just pick up and run with it,
exactly.
right? Because
Right.
they figured it out. And really, I think in order to be a good leader, you always need to recognize that you don't know everything, and you
Hmm.
constantly be on a mission to learn more and understand more. I mean, I consume books every single day. Unfortunately, I don't sit down and read it right now. I'm listening on Audible, but I still consume, constantly consuming stuff. And, probably 80% of what I'm consuming, it goes in and out and, but there's a 20% that sticks, right? And it always makes me a better person. So I think that there's always opportunity to continue to up level and upgrade your skill set, your abilities and step into and be more of the person that you want to be. I think
That's
that,
it.
um, I look at parenting, right? Like I got beat as a child, not like in a I mean, maybe in today's day and age, it would have been like a CPS call,
Yeah.
maybe, but like just anytime we did something wrong, we got slapped, like we
Yeah.
got smacked around, right?
Right.
And I didn't like it. So I don't do it to my kids.
Sure.
And it's kind of like, when you're a leader, like you're essentially being a parent to your staff, right? Like, and you have to decide what is your disciplinary approach, what is your, and when you lead by example, what does that look like? So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for somebody to step into a new identity as a leader,
Hmm.
and how they do that. So
Yep.
let's start there, right?
Yes.
You're working with somebody, and leadership is new to them. How do you help them to create their identity, to figure out who they want to be as a leader?
So one of my principles is that we can't lead others until we learn to lead ourselves. And just as you were saying earlier, like bringing your best self to the role that you're in makes everybody in your organization better. So, first focusing on who am I being in this situation, and am I earning the kind of respect and followership that I want from my team? And a lot of that comes down to some really simple things. If your calendar looks like a failing game of Tetris, that might not be bringing your best self to work. If you're running from one meeting to the next with no buffer time, you're probably bringing all of the emotions and thoughts and open loops from that other meeting into the next meeting and into the next meeting. And by the time you get you to your 4 o'clock or your 5 o'clock meeting, your head is full of garbage and you're probably not bringing your most creative, positive problem solver self to those late afternoon meetings.
Yeah, it's interesting because my calendar is like a game of Tetris, but I have somebody managing that, right? Like I've
Yes.
delegated that off to somebody and they
Yes.
know what the bumpers are, right? So
Yep.
like I know that I'm working out with my personal trainer on Wednesday morning, so I'm not in the office till 11. I know that on Wednesdays and Thursdays I'm getting my son from pre-K, so I'm
Yep.
out by 2,
Yep.
and they've got those parameters and they know what to operate within those. So I do think that you can certainly lead with a full calendar. You need to be. I think discipline is so important as a
Mm-hmm.
leader,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to just recognize that. Um, and as I'm saying it, I think it's more like setting the boundaries of what you're okay with doing,
That's right.
and not having the solution be, oh, it's going to be me, because when it's going to be me, you violate all those boundaries.
That's exactly it. When you're the linchpin, when you're the reason that things get done or don't get done, then you're going to justify not picking your kid up after school or skipping the workout. And those are the things, just like having some buffer between meetings, taking time to work out, taking time to be with your family. Those are the things that fill us back up so that we can show up as our best self when we're at work. And when we skip those things, our performance starts to degrade, and that degraded performance means that the whole organization, like if you think about the best boss that you ever worked with, when that person walked in the room, everybody perked up, everybody got better, right? Versus if you worked for a really grumpy boss who was not very self-aware and kind of dumping on the team, everybody's performance degraded. And so your performance actually impacts not just you but the entire organization.
Yeah,
So
it's interesting because you find that with just, and it's not even like people you report to, right? Like if somebody if negative Nancy walks in the room, it's like, oh, I feel more down than I did before.
yes.
And even somebody who's like an eternal optimist, like I need to I need to go find myself a happy person just to kind of like dose up again.
Yes. And so the when I talk, like if we look at your business as an example, I mean I understand that you have an organization and team that works with you, but if you're looking at your 2026 goals, if you were out of your seat for 6 months, it would be really hard for your team to meet those goals, right? I mean it's important for you to be at your best in order for your team to perform well.
Yep. That's true in the current version of my business. It's not
Yeah,
where I want to be
I
eventually, but
understand that. But even when I've worked with clients who are who are working 20 hours a week or can take 3 or 4 weeks off, it's still important for them when they show up in their business to be at their best. And in fact,
yes.
in some ways, it's more important the less people see you for you to show up as your best. Because when you do show up, they're assuming that that's who you are all the time. And so the if you're a highly variable person and some days you're great and some days you're not, your team can kind of average that out. But if they only see you in small pieces, whatever they experience in that, they assume you're that all the time. And so the less time you're spending in your business, the more important it is that you're showing up in a positive, creative, problem solving mindset.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so let's assume we're taking care of ourselves. We're
Yep.
showing up as a good leader, like we're
Yep.
you know we're setting a good example. Um, what are some of the things that you're finding that people struggle with? I know what my clients are struggling with, but I want to first, kind of see where you're at with this, and then I'll share with you, some of the stuff if you didn't already cover it. Um, but in the aspect of leading, right? Like there
Hmm.
become struggles, and it's not
Hmm.
necessarily that I'm doing a poor job or I'm not doing a good job of leading,
Hmm.
but maybe there's something lacking in motivation or skill
Hmm.
with the staff,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So how do we navigate this? What is coming up, and how do we navigate that?
So there's kind of two levels of challenges that I see people running into. One is about around time horizon, that as you level up in your business, the 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 time horizon for the problems that you're working on move out further, right? So when you were a solo, you had to deliver on work that was due today or this week or this month. As you get some team around you, the stuff that's going to go out the door in the next week or 2 weeks, your team is taking care of that. You're looking further out at like, well, what work do we have for next month, and what are the skills or talents that we need in order to continue to grow the business? And so as our organization grows, we have to shift our time horizon out further into the future and start working on problems that are not these day-to-day problems. When we do that, then the second category of challenges comes in, which is sort of what you were referring to, is that when we let go of that day-to-day stuff, how do we know that that's getting done? And is it getting done at the level that we need it to get done? And I see clients that start to move at that longer time horizon, and then they see mistakes or they see things that they're not happy with, and it kind of pulls them back into the present. And there's a lot of like going back and forth between the work that they should be doing and getting into the details in the work day to day. And that's a challenge um, that can be multifaceted for people. There's a lot of reasons why people end up getting stuck in the present instead of going out into the future.
What I'm finding some of my clients asking or questioning or complaining about is, hey, I've set my vision of what I want to do for the year. I've
Hmm.
mapped out what that's going to look like. I've
Right?
communicated it with my staff, but I just
Hmm.
can't seem to get my staff to execute
Mm.
on the level, at the level that I need them to, or to, they're buying in, like they're nodding their head in meetings or
Hmm.
whatever, like they're getting it supposedly, but they're not the action is not happening behind
Yeah.
that to actually pull us to where we need to go, right? Um, how do you help your leaders to understand how to get their people to do what they want them to do?
Yeah. So there's two levels to this. One is clear delegation. So when I'm asking people to do something, I want to make sure that I've really been clear about what does done look like? What does success look like? If you were doing a really great job of this, how would we both know it? And part of that is that I want to give the reporting power to the team member. So if there's some KPIs that they need to hit, I want them sending me a report every week. Hey, here's how I did against my KPIs, because that's keeping them aware of what's going on, and it allows you then to be like, hey, great job, or do we need to talk about how we're going to steer the ship? But it gives them more agency in terms of how is it that they are going to meet the goals that we're coming to. The second half of it is, I think that a lot of folks, well, the folks that I work with can have challenges holding people accountable. And either they're being too harsh or black and white about things, or they're just being too mealy mouthed about it. And so the approach that I usually am recommending to folks is to, if you get a piece of work that isn't at the level that you want it to be, the temptation is to jump in and fix it. And the more that you jump in and fix it, the more you train them to send you stuff that's half baked. And so as soon as something comes and it's not where you want it to be, you send it back and ask, is this your best work? Because if it is your best work, then we need to have a conversation about how we improve your skills or find you a different place to work. And if it's not your best work, why the hell are you sending it to me? It needs to be ready to go to the client if it's coming to me. And so to have clear delineation there that you're not willing to accept stuff that's not client ready. Now it levels them up, right? You're calling them to a higher level of performance as opposed to you working down to try to fix things for them.
Yeah, I love that idea of giving feedback in a way that you're saying it's not where it needs to be, but I'm not telling you why, right? Like you answer to me whether this is your best version, right? Um, it's interesting. Are you familiar with the book Radical Candor?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so there's a book, Radical Candor by Kim Scott. My team will link that up in the show notes for those of you who want to go check it out. Wonderful book on management leadership and how to talk to your team to get them to do what you want them to do. And she opens the book. She was a Google executive. She opens the book and tells a story about a guy named Dan who was on her team, and essentially what you were describing, right? Like he submitted something to her, and she went and fixed it,
Yep,
and this perpetuated itself and continued to go
absolutely.
on, and it built up this resentment in her. Like, I keep cleaning up this guy's work. And eventually came to a point where she's like, I'm done. I got to let him go. And she called him in to let him know that she's firing him. And she told him why. And he said, you never told me that there was anything wrong with it. I could
Yeah,
have done better.
yeah.
Right. And that's the point, is like, if you don't question it, if you don't tell them that there's room for improvement, then we're setting the stage for them to think that this is the level that's needed
Hmm.
and think everything is great. And you at the same time, or, are building up this level of resentment to this person who keeps giving you work to do.
Exactly.
They're supposed to be getting the work done, and instead they're just giving you more work.
Yes.
And that's a self-perpetuating and continuous cycle. So absolutely being able to break that, I think, is incredibly important. Um, what can we do to get people to buy in? I know that if you ask people to come up with ideas of how to do something, and then they were involved in that process, they're more
Hmm.
bought into it because it was their idea.
Hmm.
But often that's a problem to do because you already know how it needs to be done, right? Like, and
Mm.
asking them to give input might mean that you're not choosing what they're sharing because you already
Hmm.
have your agenda of what you want to have it done.
Hmm.
So if you already know how something needs to happen, how can you get buy-in from the team without giving them the power of trying to come up with a solution because you already know what you need to do?
Mm. So there's a couple thoughts there. If it's something that they don't have experience with, then they need your guidance, right? And so it's perfectly okay to say, "Hey, here's how I would do this. I would do A and then B and then C, and I'm happy for you to do it a different way, but how about we do it this way and then we'll see what the results are. And then if you want to change something, I'm definitely open to your suggestions and changes." Um, However, if it's something that we think that they should know how to do it, or they might be leveling up to the point where, well, I'm going to give them a chance to come up with a process. Again, it's perfectly okay to say, "Hey, here's the outcome, here's the goal. How would you approach this?" I want to hear your feedback, and then if there are places that you're stuck or places that you're not sure about, then we can brainstorm that together. And so you're still there, like you're not just turning it over to them. That's more like abdicating than delegating, right? You're there to use your experience to help them improve their process. But they're also getting the experience of, hey, he appreciates my input and some of these ideas. But the thing that is interesting is when we do that, sometimes we hear ideas that are better than ours, and that's super fun.
Yeah, the Stephen Covey in the book Trust and Inspire talks about this concept of two different ways to lead,
Mm-hmm.
the carrot or the stick method.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, do you want to, enforce rules and have, disciplinary actions if they're not followed, or do you want to reward people for good behavior and, incentivize them that way? I am a very, very much a carrot approach person. And I help my clients with performance compensation plans and stuff like that to
Mhm.
really kind of motivate and drive people to do what we want them to do based off of them earning bonuses from it and stuff like that.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on those leadership styles? Do you think that, you know, everybody should be incentivized in some way, to for the things that we want them to do? How do you work with your clients there, and what's your general thoughts on that?
So my first thought is, assuming that you're on the carrot side, which you already told me that you are. I think the really key question is, how do you handle failure? So one of my clients, I love how he handles this. Whenever he's not getting the result that he wants, and he's in a business that has sharp deadlines. So sometimes he just has to jump in and help them get across the line. And then when it's out the door, he pulls the team together and he says, "How can we make sure that this never happens again?" And there's no finger pointing or blaming. He's like, this system, this process that we use to get this result failed. How would we do this differently? What changes would we make to this process to make sure that we don't end up in this situation again? And so by avoiding blame, and he's not saying I did everything right and you did everything wrong. In fact, he's often part of the problem that led to this result. But that kind of after action review helps move the needle forward so fewer and fewer of those situations come up. Now, in terms of compensation, I think there's two levels of performance-based compensation for most organizations. There are a few people who can really move the needle for the business. These are generally, VP director type people who I want them to have some skin in the game. I want to give them a significant percentage of their compensation in a bonus, 20 to 50%, depending on their roles. And so there, we're setting very specific KPIs or initiatives that they're going to achieve, and then based on that, we're going to give them some kind of incentive. The rest of the organization also needs some incentive, but because they have less of an ability to move the needle, my administrative assistant, her bonus is more based on the performance of the company as a whole. And so we give her a reward based on how the overall team is performing. And so those can be set at different levels. Like the people who aren't moving the needle, it's more like a 5 or 10% of total compensation, whereas the people at the top, it's a much higher percentage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like your salespeople, your billers. If you're in a law firm,
Right.
you've got attorneys. The people who are actually doing the deliverable work. They're driving the actual revenue number, and then everyone else is just they're a cog in the wheel, so to speak, of helping you get to the results. Interestingly, the way that we navigate this with most of our fractional CFO clients is, those higher level positions, we have an actual like comp plan that's tied to the performance. There's
Yeah.
multiple tiers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Whereas for everyone else, we use a KPI system. So we
Hmm.
identify the KPIs, and if they hit all of their KPIs, they get the entire bonus that we've allocated, which is typically 10% of their salary.
Hmm.
And if they only hit one, we'll do a portion of it. So we'll do like
Yeah.
10% or 15%. So they can't they're not there's a lot less motivation to only hit one or two, right? Like
Yeah.
we want them to try to hit all their KPIs.
Yeah.
And it works best if you got three or four KPIs. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, that's what we're doing. But is that so? It's interesting because I I met with a owner of a $50 million firm, and I can't argue with the fact that he's very
Successful.
successful at what he
Yep.
does,
Yep.
right? And I told him that I think that he can do even better with performance comp, and he was adamant. He's like, I don't believe that works. And he basically said, like, I expect that everyone that we're hiring is exactly who we thought that they were. They're the
Mhm.
best version of themselves, and either they're going to perform or they're not. And if they don't, then they're out. And if they do, then they're in, right? Like, and that's, I expect them to just show up in their best form every single day. and I can't wait for the opportunity to prove him wrong. But I need I need to actually be inserted into his business and execute on some of that to demonstrate it. Um, I it sounds like you're more in my camp, but
Yeah.
but I was wondering if you had thoughts about that style and
The
um,
nuance that I'll put in there is that, particularly in smaller firms, I'm often using that variable comp to bridge the gap between what someone's making in a larger organization to lure them away to come to work in my organization. That in a smaller organization, those high comp individuals, the billers, the people that you're paying a really high salary to, we can't necessarily give them 20% more than they were making at their other organization, but I can, on a variable basis, give them the opportunity to make 30% more if they're delivering. And so using that variable comp as a way to bridge the gap between the compensation that they were making in a larger organization and what I'm willing to pay them on a salary basis can be really helpful. The other thing about in a larger organization is that there are just fewer and fewer people who can really move the needle. It's just a more complex web. And so, if you're in a $50 million organization and let's say that's 250 people,
right.
maybe there's five or seven that a variable comp package is really going to be valuable for. And I might, he could talk me out of doing a general performance comp, but I don't know. The whole thing around bonuses, if there's not some kind of measurement about why people are getting bonuses, then it's just a lottery ticket and you're just not getting anything out of it. And so,
Yeah, I agree with that. Bonusing just ad hoc is definitely not that's just wasted money.
yeah,
And I don't think it's a waste to give your people money, but it's it's basically you saying, "Hey, I'm a good guy," but you don't get any it just you get no leverage from it.
that's
So,
right. That's right.
um yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, we're just about out of time, which is crazy because we're just having so much fun here behind the microphone. But uh, this is real. I mean, look, this stuff really lights me up. Like, I really feel like this is where you're making magic out of something because you just have a bunch of individuals and then you bring them together and they
That's
produce
it.
something together and it becomes this beautiful thing
Yeah.
where when you can unlock the true value and potential of them, you can do really a lot with it. I've been doing a podcast series solo for the show, talking about how to set yourself up for 2026. I've been
Hmm.
focusing on this idea of leverage, where
Yes.
the true way to succeed in business is to understand that business is leverage. Like you're building you're leveraging other people's time, talent, energy. You're leveraging other people's money or your own money. So I think that if we understand that and understand the value that we have to bring people together in a leadership capacity, you have the ability to bring people together. And there's always more ways to do that, whether it's to, find a retreat, bring more training in, there's so much that you can do to up level your staff, up level their skill set, make them more excited to be there. And all of that goes a long way in the overall production of the business of what you're trying to
Hmm.
achieve.
Hmm.
So this is we just scratched the surface of this conversation. So really great that you were here. Really enjoyed the conversation that I had with you. Um, as we wrap this up, I'm going to really quick. I'm going to promo our workshop one more time. I'm going to
Sure.
ask you two questions and let you sit on it for a moment
Okay.
while I talk. The first is going to be one parting piece of advice or wisdom that you want to share with our audience, and the second is if somebody wants to connect with you, learn more about you, where should they go to do that? Folks, we have a 2-day workshop that we're doing. It's a workshop series. We just kicked it off. The first one was in December. Second one's going to be the last week of January on Monday and Tuesday, and then the third one's going to be sometime in February. I don't have the dates in front of me, but it's not we're not going to the Caribbean, we're not going to Vegas, we're not hanging out with a bunch of people who are coming in just to be flashy and show each other off to each other. We're getting into a room and we're rolling up our sleeves and we're creating a plan for the next 12 months. We're going to unlock $100,000 a month of revenue for your firm, and it's going to mean that we need to look at the way you're packaging your services. We need to look at your team and figure out if you need to hire some people on there. We're going to look at your marketing and see if you need to invest in some marketing in order to make that happen, and then we're going to look at your finances and see can you find a path to navigate through this and to get there? And when we're done, you're going to have a cohesive plan that's going to have a future paced profit and loss statement and balance sheet. You're going to know where you're going, and you're going to know exactly what actions you need to take to get there. If this sounds like the perfect opportunity for you, if this sounds like something that you want, if you've been grinding it out, trying to figure out how to get beyond yourself for the last 5, 10, 15 years, and you just haven't unlocked that key, this is a 12-month plan. We can solve this for you in the next 12 months. And it starts with 2 days with me in a room with 20 people. So if you want that for yourself, go to profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026, profitwithlaw.com/LFG for law firm growth 2026. And if you are driving or in the shower or whatever you're doing while listening to this podcast, the link is in the show notes at profitwithlaw.com or in the description of your podcast player or your YouTube channel. So we expect to see you there. I can't wait to have you in the room. Looking forward to having you there. Brad, over to you.
All right. So the piece of wisdom that I want to lay out is about growth and about growing your firm. And I hear a lot of people concerned that if they grow their firm, it's going to be more work for them. That as their firm levels up, how can I do that when I'm already out of gas in the firm that I'm in? And what I want to tell you is that there's a way to accomplish your goals in a slow, fun, and relaxed way. And that the bigger that your firm gets, actually, because of the leverage, you can actually work less and have a bigger organization that's paying you more. And so that's my 2026 wish for everybody, is that we let go of that idea that growing our firm means more work, and instead embrace this idea that growing our firm means more leverage and that we can relax.
Love that. And how can people learn more about you or connect with you?
Anchoradvisors.com is my website. That's the easiest place to find me. And if you go to anchoradvisors.com/self-leadership-assessment, there's a quick 10-question assessment there that will help you to get a handle on how good a job are you doing at leading yourself. That's the first step, is to lead yourself so that you can lead others. So anchoradvisors.com/self-leadership-assessment.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. Folks, we'll link that up for you in the show notes. You can find that at profitwithlaw.com or in the description of your podcast player or in the YouTube video that you're watching. We are here every single week with a brand new episode. We've been doing that consistently since March of 2019. We're over 500 episodes in, and you want to be notified when we release a new episode, because we got really good stuff like what we just had with Brad, a wonderful conversation that really should help you in up-leveling yourself and your team, solving some problems. So if that's valuable to you, make sure you hit the subscribe button in your podcast player or on your YouTube channel so you get notified when we release a new episode. Every single Thursday, we drop a new one for you. Looking forward to having you as a listener next week when we drop our next episode, and just take something from today. Something from today and implement it in your business. Find a friend who could use this content. Share the episode with them. Do something from this episode that can propel this forward, whether it's for you or for somebody else. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. Take care.